Welcome everyone, my name is Edwin and today I'm going to show you a small exercise that's designed to mobilize the pelvis. It also works on the hip joints and it coordinates the muscles in the lower back and belly region, which is something that's quite important but is often overlooked. To get started, just to let you know, whenever you want to review this video, view it a second time, there is all the time codes down in the description, so you can jump to any point in the video that's out of interest for you looking at the time codes. Still, I suggest watch the whole thing. It's not that long and it really gives you a holistic view of what I'm talking about and why those things are important. Other than that, let's jump right into it. What we want to do is we want to move our pelvis. Well, there are only a couple of ways we can do so. And just to clarify at the beginning, a couple of vocabulary things actually. When I say move the pelvis to the front, I mean a so-called anterior pelvic tilt. You can imagine that like a bowl of water, and you tilt this bowl so that the water pours out in front. So that's moving the pelvis to the front, or anterior pelvic tilt, and a posterior pelvic tilt then would be exactly the opposite, so pouring water out of the bowl to the rear. And our pelvic ring, the whole pelvic region, can be viewed as sort of a bowl where we have some water in there or something like that. So that's the main definition we're gonna go with in this video tutorial, just so we know what we're talking about. Basic anatomy of my lower back area, my lumbar area. The vertebrae in my lumbar area are designed in such a way that the movements they can do best is anterior and posterior pelvic tilt and left and right tilt. So while the vertebrae in my thoracical spine and in my cervical spine are designed to be perfect for rotation as well, the vertebrae down here in the lumbar region are mainly designed for this and the left-right movement, and not so much for a rotational movement. That's very important to understand, because that makes the whole thing stable as it is already. Now, when we talk about this movement, get in a position where the inside edges of your feet are parallel to each other. The feet are roughly hip-wide apart. Now we have two areas that we are going to focus on throughout this. One is the pubic bone area and the other one is the sacrum area. The sacrum is the bone back here. It's actually a bone that's comprised of a couple of vertebrae that are fused together and build the middle part of the pelvic ring. Now when I say pubic bone up, then I mean this area out here, this bony area out here, and I want to pull it up using my abdominal muscles. So actually that creates a posterior pelvic tilt. So my pelvis, you can see it right here with the end of my trousers. My pelvis is actually tilting backwards as if I was pouring out water to the rear. Now comes the interesting part. When I say release, I don't have to do anything, and that's the most important part. Once I move the pelvis to one position that's out of the ordinary, next thing I can do is just simply relax, and the pelvis will naturally turn back into its normal, regular position. Why? Because the tension in the muscles that I create by stretching them before I create tension in front, I lift my pubic bone, thus my lower back gets stretched just a tiny little bit. It's not really a stretch in terms like yoga or literally getting into some sort of stretching position, but they get extended, they get lengthened. And now I can simply release my abdominal muscles and the pelvis will naturally drop back into its previous position. When I do this completely the other way around, so I want to raise my sacrum, now I activate the muscles back here in my lumbar area and I pull the sacrum upwards. So my pubic bone goes actually down. Once again, when I'm in this position and I want to come back, I don't instantly activate my abdominal muscles to pull me back, because doing so would put a lot of pressure in the intervertebral discs that is not necessary. So from this position I simply let go of the muscles in the lumbar spine. I just simply release the muscles in the lumbar spine. I didn't use my abdominal muscles at all to come from this position to this position. My abdominal muscles are completely relaxed. I don't need them to bring the pelvis in a neutral position if the tension in my belly and my lumbar spine is equalized and balanced properly. And that's the whole thing we're talking about in this video tutorial, because it's very important to understand that whenever, for example, you are in this hollow back shape on a permanent basis, most solutions suggest that right now you should train your abdominal muscles in order to counteract this position in the lumbar spine and to pull the pelvis back into a neutral position. But that's just half of the story. See, there are actually very, very few people who need to train their abdominal muscles in order to fix an anterior pelvic tilt. Because an anterior pelvic tilt comes out of different aspects. It might come out of a lot of tension in your lumbar area, back here. Or it might come from a lot of tension in your psoas muscle, which is attached to the spine on the left and on the right, not out front here, but deep inside the body. Now, also, this psoas muscle does two things. Either it lifts the leg towards my chest, or if the leg is fixed, it pulls, when activated, my lumbar spine to the front. Now, those are just the two main aspects that can be the cause for an anterior pelvic tilt. Structurally, I'm not talking about what causes this structure problem, because then we have to look at psychological aspects, we have to look at emotional aspects, we might have to look at some sort of trauma and stuff like that. We might have to look at injuries. I'm not going to go into greater detail about that in this video, but main thing here, whenever you are in such a position, there are a couple of things that are holding you in this position. And that's either the muscles are too tense back here, or the psoas is too tense, or I have to say, the fascia system, the connective tissue system, is actually too tight. So all of those things, they need to be looked at. But to say in general, whenever you're in this position, to fix an anterior pelvic tilt means that you have to stabilize through training your abdominal muscles more. That's just not the case, because the abdominal muscles are not built to be tense up all the time to build a balance to extremely tight lumbar back muscles. Because the lumbar back muscles, they get tight whenever you have stress. That's one of the main muscular stress responses in the body, that the lumbar spine activates the muscles for a couple of reasons. Same goes for the psoas muscle. And so what we want to do right now in this video, I'm not going to give you exercises to balance in terms of stabilize and train your core muscles. There are a lot of exercises out there, and some people also need them, but not everyone. Most regular people just need to coordinate the muscles properly, and then they can get back to a healthy, neutral, structural position. For instance, if you have, say, a prolapsed intervertebral disc or a dislocated intervertebral discs, or you have a gliding vertebra in your lower back area or something like that, those would be indications where it's necessary to stabilize through physical training and through muscular training. But if your spine, if your intervertebral discs are healthy, you do not have any intervertebral disc displacement or stuff like that, then there is a good chance that you don't actually have to train your abdominal muscles in order to fix anterior pelvic tilt. There are a couple of other things that are more important. Anyway, I don't want to talk about anterior pelvic tilt alone. I just want to show you how to mobilize this area right now, and that's where we go into. Just give you a small idea of how this exercise fits into many other exercises that are out there, and why I'm talking about specifically those aspects that I'm talking about today. So, what we want to do is we want to alternate the pelvic tilt. So we want to bring the pubic bone down, then let the sacrum drop, then bring the pubic bone up, let the pubic bone drop, bring the sacrum up, sacrum down, pubic bone up, pubic bone down. So that's basically this switching between posterior and anterior pelvic tilt. That's basically what we want to do here. That's the exercise, how it should look like once you know what you're doing. In order to train it properly, we're going to do one thing, and it's activate your abdominal muscles to pull up your pubic bone. Next thing, relax your abdominal muscles so that the pubic bone can drop. Then activate the muscles in your lumbar spine as far as it's comfortable to pull up the sacrum area, which is the bone back there. Now, try to relax the muscles in the lower back so that the sacrum can drop back down again. And then we go back to the front and activate the abdominal muscles to pull the pubic bone up. Then again, release the abdominal muscles, then activate the lumbar muscles, then release, then activate once again the abdominal muscles. So that's how the exercise should be done in order to train the coordination between agonist and antagonist. So the muscles that support the movement and the muscles that, in that specific case, counteract the movement. Now, when I want to pull my pubic bone up, my abdominal muscles work to support that movement. And tension in the lower back actually works against pulling my pubic bone up. So what I want is, I want agonist and antagonist, the muscle that supports a movement and the muscle that contradicts a movement. I want those two muscles to be balanced, that whenever one tenses up, the other actually lets go. If I give you an example with biceps and triceps. Now, when I want to bend my arm, I need my biceps, mainly, not only, but I need my, say, biceps area of the arm to bend it. When I want to extend my arm again, I need my triceps back there. Whenever I tense up my biceps and my triceps, the arm isn't moving at all, because both muscles on both sides of the joint tense up. The only thing that happens is that the pressure inside the joint increases. The same goes for the spine. Whenever I activate my lumbar spine muscles and my abdominal muscles at the same time, yes, the spine gets stabilized, so it doesn't move that much anymore, but it also increases the pressure in the vertebrae and in the intervertebral discs. And that's not that ideal. A healthy spine, as mentioned in a couple of videos already, a healthy spine should be constantly in motion. In motion in such a way, not completely relaxed and like falling apart. I'm not talking about falling apart. I'm talking about there is a natural pulsation in the body that comes from your breath, it comes from your walking, whatever. And those aspects, they are really important to be understood, because whenever there is some part in my body that's completely stiff, that actually takes away mobility, takes away adaptability. And as mentioned before, unless there is an injury already, unless there is a problem with a dislocated disc or something like that already, it's much healthier to have your spine moving than to simply try to stabilize and stop the spine from moving. Alright, so there is one more thing to it, to this exercise. My lumbar muscles, all the muscles back there that support the lumbar spine and that move the lumbar spine, or also that help to pull the sacrum up back there. Those muscles back there, as mentioned before, they respond to stress rather quickly. Now the important thing to understand is that it might take some time. Also, it might take some effort to actually get in touch with the muscles in your lumbar spine, to be conscious about them, to feel them in such a way that you can actually tell them to let go. If you haven't tried anything like letting go the lumbar spine muscles for years, then you might say, what is he talking about? I can't relax my lumbar spine. It's in this position, fixed. I don't even know where there are muscles that I should let go. This awareness, this consciousness comes with training, comes with movement, comes with mobility. And that's what we try to regain. Now, if the muscles back there are so tense that you have no clue of how to activate them, there are two things you can do. First of all, before you start the movement, try to grab back there and try to find your spine, and then try to sort of just simply feel with your fingers the two main parts of muscle that run on either side of the spine, on the left and on the right side of the spine. Just touch them. Massage them a little bit, but not for the sake of a massage, rather for the sake of, oh yeah, okay, now I know I can touch the area that I'm supposed to let go. That's it already. And then change the exercise just a tiny little bit. Leave the rear part out. What am I talking about? We had this pulling the pubic bone up via our abdominal muscles, then let go. And then I said, pull the sacrum up by activating the lumbar muscles. And then again, let go. Now the fun thing is, forget about pulling your sacrum up completely if, and only for the moment, if your muscles back there are so tense or your consciousness is just simply not in those muscles at the moment and that you don't feel them. If you don't feel them at the moment, there is no point in pulling a tight muscle even tighter in order to let go. So what you do also, if you already have, say, not a dislocated disc or something like that, but if you sometimes feel pain back there, then just simply do pubic bone up and release. Pubic bone up and release. Activate your abdominal muscles to pull the pubic bone up and release. To pull the pubic bone up and release. Pubic bone up and release. This will start to move the lumbar spine, and at the same time it'll give it sort of a small stretching, massaging workout, but very, very gentle. So that's the anterior and posterior thing. Now whenever you want to do this exercise with more flow, so switching between front and rear more quickly, don't try to do so right at the beginning. Most important thing is to learn about the coordination. Whenever my abdominal muscles are engaged, my lumbar muscles are supposed to relax. And whenever my lumbar muscles are engaged, my abdominal muscles are supposed to let go. So that's how a normal, healthy spine should work. A little bit of tension, unless we stand in an exact straight line, a little bit of tension will always be there when we walk. But that's natural. But there shouldn't be any strange positions, any positions that fall completely out of the ordinary in a regular day movement. Now we go back and take a look at the second part of this exercise. Once again, inside edges of the feet parallel towards each other, the feet roughly hip wide apart. That's important in this exercise. And right now we're going to do this and this. You can either let your arms hang and drop them down completely, or you can put them up on the hips if that helps. I suggest over time just let them hang. At the beginning it helps to have them here, and I'm doing it right now so that you can see much better what I'm doing. Now what we do is we want to tilt the pelvis to the left and to the right, which also makes a movement in the lumbar spine to the left and to the right, obviously. So once again we massage the lower back muscles here, an internal massage type of thing. And in order to do so, we just simply bend the knee of one leg. So in this case I just bend my right knee. If I bend the right knee, then my hip will naturally drop down on this side. I come back up, and now I bend my left knee, and the hip will drop down on the left side. I bring my left knee up, I bend the right, I bring my right knee up, I bend the left, bring the left knee up, bend the right. And again, once you're more comfortable with it, you can switch between the left and the right side a couple of times. This, and this. Whenever at the beginning something like that happens, and you realize that your whole body went sideways, that's not what we want. So we don't want this movement to look like that. You really want your upper body to stay straight and just simple have the left or the right part of the pelvis drop down, so that there is an actual movement to the left and to the right in the lumbar spine. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any sense, it wouldn't make any sense to do this movement. So doing this movement like that would only put a lot of pressure on the hip joint and actually a lot of shearing forces in the lumbar spine, so that's not what we want. What we want is just simply the upper body is upright, and we want the pelvis to shift up and down, thus mobilizing the lumbar spine area. Take your time. Once again, if for whatever reason at the beginning something like that happens to you, just make a controlling view down every so often, and if you realize that, then just simply try to straighten out your body, then come back up, then go down on the left side. And if you realize again, whoa, I just went down on the left side and my body went with it again, just look at it, try to correct the posture, bring the upper body back in the center again, and then up. And over time, your upper body will stay straight and your pelvis will naturally be able to tilt between the left and the right side. Third part of the exercise is simply to combine the front back and the left right movement and to perform a circle. I suggest at the beginning you just simply try to make a circle without any specific activation intention or something like that. Just simply go there and try to do a circular motion with your pelvis. If that works, great, keep going. If it doesn't, think about it like that, and that's also the, say, more conscious way of performing this circle. Think about it like that. It's a combination of all the things we've done before. So we activate our abdominal muscles, pulling the pubic bone up. Instead of switching back, I just simply relax my abdominal muscles, but I let my right knee drop. Now I extend my right knee and I activate at the same time my lumbar muscles. Now I relax my lumbar muscles and then let the left knee drop. And then I activate my abdominal muscles and bring the left knee up again. So basically, it's also performing this circular motion is actually just pulling up in front, pulling up on the side, pulling up in the rear, pulling up on the other side, pulling up in the front. And always the release. So pulling up, and the release allows the motion to move further. Then I release and move up the other part. Then once again, I release the tension, which allows me to move to the next side. So basically, this exercise is coordinationally quite interesting, and there is a lot in it, because if done correctly, then the pressure in the spine never goes over a certain point. So sort of the pressure in the spine stays more or less the same throughout the whole movement, because it's a tension and relaxation aspect that moves circulatory around my body. I allow my belly to go to the front. I have tension back here, I'm relaxed in front. Now, from this position, I let my right hip drop in this case. I move the tension to the right side now. Now my right side is open, my left side is compressed. Now my rear is open and my front side is compressed. Now my left side is open and my right side is compressed. And that compressing and opening movement sort of circles around the spine. And that's how you do this simple movement with your hip, this simple rolling movement with your pelvic ring. Once again, obviously it also works a little bit on the hip joints, mobilizing the hip joints, but the main aspect of it is in the lumbar spine. It mobilizes the lumbar spine and it helps to coordinate the muscles so that agonist and antagonist, muscle that supports the movement and the muscle that stands against the movement, that they work in perfect harmony with each other. And actually, once you've done that a couple of times, you should feel a lot more upright and stable actually. Because stability comes out of the balance of muscular tension. Stability doesn't necessarily come from a lot of tension in all areas. That's stiffness, that's not stability. Stability is a dynamic process in the human physical body. A dynamic between tension and relaxation in agonist and antagonistic muscle groups. And that's what we try to do here. That's what I mean with coordinating the muscles properly. Once you release tension in some areas and told the other areas exactly when they have to work, and no muscular area in the human physical body should work 100% of the time. It's always in exchange with the antagonistic or agonistic muscle groups. So once you told the body that through, for example, a movement like that, then you naturally feel more stable and taller, because suddenly the imbalance of tension, whether it was too much or too little tension in some areas, is suddenly balanced, and the muscles start to work the way they're supposed to work again. And that's what this exercise or those exercises are all about. Now, one last thing, how to actually do those exercises, how to train them. Again, I suggest do them as often as they come to mind. They're really small exercises, nothing important, nothing great, where you nothing big, where you really need, say, a lot of space or something like that. So you can just simply get up from your desk and do a couple of those exercises whenever you feel comfortable with it. Basically, I would say to the front and rear part, to the left and right part. If you still have time, try the circular motion. How often? Well, don't go with sets like in fitness training. Don't go like, okay, I'm gonna do 50 reps now. No. Just remember, it's about coordinating. Coordinating in the human physical body, as mentioned in many other of my videos already, is something where you try to relearn or reteach the body that you want it to use the normal, healthy way of functioning that got lost somewhere on the way throughout the lifestyle, throughout maybe emotional or physical trauma and stuff like that. So actually you're gonna unlearn a unhealthy pattern. So the thing is, just simply go with a couple of reps, say 5-6 times at least, and maybe no more than say 10 or 15 or something like that. Doesn't matter if it's 20 once, but don't do 50 in a row, because that would actually counteract the positive effect of the movement. So you just simply go 1, 2, and focus mainly, say, on the relaxing part back here. So you activate your abdominal muscles, relax. Activate abdominal muscles, relax. Activate abdominal muscles, relax. Then you can switch to the rear, unless, as mentioned before, you have some sort of issues in your spine. For example, if you try this exercise and you have a dislocated disc, don't try to pull up your sacrum any further. Just simply go with the trying to pull the pubic bone up part and leave the pulling the sacrum part out completely. If you're healthy, which is more or less healthy, then I suggest do a couple of reps with pubic bone up, then do a couple of reps with sacrum up, and see if you can already let the sacrum drop back down again. If so, great. Then you can do a couple of pulling the pubic bone up, release, pulling the sacrum up, release, pulling the pubic bone up, release, pulling the sacrum up, release. You can do a couple of those, then switch to the other part. And when I say a couple, again, not 50, not 60, maybe to 5, 6, 10, 15, something like that in this area. The same goes for this. It's more important to do few repetitions with a lot of awareness and a lot of consciousness in it than to go 41, 42, 43 and so on, and only count in your head, oh shit, was it 37 or was it already 39? That's not what this exercise is all about. This exercise is about regaining trust in your body, reteaching the muscles trust in your commands, and this exercise is also about regaining awareness of your body, thus being able to balance it on your own much better than you've been able to do so before. That's the main thing, all the most important things that have to do with this exercise. A couple of more intricacies that we could talk about, but I'd say the video is long enough right now. Yeah, that's it. Try this exercise. If you have any questions whatsoever, leave them in the comment box below. I'll be happy to answer them. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it and there's some information in it that you can use for yourself. And if you want to stay up to date with things like body mechanics, structural work, how to breathe, how to implement this conscious aspect of how to activate muscles into your movement, how to actually interact moving in a natural way, something like that. All those aspects, they're covered in different videos that I do all the time, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned if you liked it and get more updates really soon. I wish you a wonderful time and all the best to you. Have fun training.